What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 42. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate everybody coming back and listening. On today's episode, we are going to be covering the newest entry to the Sony Marvel Universe, and that is going to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It has been a long time that fans have been waiting for this sequel. 5 years to be exact. Into the Spider-Verse came out in 2018, and I think that one just blew a lot of people away with just how different it was because of the animation. I think people were just so used to watching these different types of animations that were like Pixar type of style, or you had the old classic type of animation like The Lion King, and you had things like Snow White and all these different types of stuff. And so when Into the Spider-Verse came out, it kind of again just changed the way that a lot of fans would watch these types of animated films. Into the Spider-Verse was very much like a comic book come to life. And now we have Across the Spider-Verse, which, again, for me, at least in my personal opinion, the thing I was most excited about was not only the great story, but also how are they going to try to raise the bar when it came to the animation? How are they going to try to make it even more realistic, or blend different types of colors and styles? So that was definitely one of the things that got me most excited about. So again, that's what we're going to be covering today. Guys, if this is your first time listening to the Timeless Movie Podcast, welcome. What we try to do here is basically just go through a full review of the movie. And when I say full, I don't mean like the entire, scene by scene. I mostly just mean really kind of like an overall type of a review where I cover what my favorite parts of the movie were, what my favorite performance was, was there a scene or moment that kind of just gave me chills or I really enjoyed, and then answering the question of, is this movie timeless? Could I see myself rewatching this movie over and over again? So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in to the first segment where I like to talk a little bit about what are some of the things that I thought about before I went into the theaters to watch Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. First question was, who was going to be the surprise Spider variant that would steal the show? In the first movie, it was Spider-Man Noir. Again, when you're going through the specific film, you're kind of thinking that the entire movie is going to really revolve around Miles Morales, this new Spider-Man that he ends up getting bit, and now he's having to kind of traverse his life and understand how to become Spider-Man. But it really, what highlighted that first movie, Into the Spider-Verse, was not only Miles' story, but also these side characters that ended up coming up towards like the end of the film that just added even more flavor, added more, complexity in regards to how the multiverse works, but also kind of shows the different types of tones that Spider-Man can be. Not all of them kind of make jokes and are very kind of witty as well. You had Spider-Man Noir, who was hilarious, but the way that he would kind of talk is like from the 1930s, and it was voiced by Nicolas Cage. And it was such a great cameo by obviously Nicolas Cage to do the voice. And it was just a great job to kind of highlight a different version of Spider-Man that not a lot of people really know, unless you would read the comics or you've read the different types of Spider-Verse, novels or anything that they had. But this is just such a great idea for a character. He has such great one-liners in the first movie. So my thought immediately went, well, now that we have Across the Spider-Verse coming out, it's been stated through various interviews that there are over 200 different Spider-Man characters. That's got to put it in your mind that there's going to be a couple of these different Spider variants that are going to really stand out and have a great performance. So I'm super excited. We've seen like Spider-Cat. We've seen these different types of Spider-Mans that are going to be appearing just by looking at the trailers. So I'm super excited to see which one is going to be the standout character for me. Next question I had was, would there be a death that occurs in the movie? In almost every Spider-Man story, there's always certain tragic deaths that occur that really shape that Spider-Man character. Again, the most basic one that we've always seen is Uncle Ben, right? That is the prominent death that really leads Spider-Man into realizing that he's got to become something more, right? He's got to be, again, responsible with the power that he has been given. And so in the first movie, Into the Spider-Verse, you had that same kind of death, right? You had Uncle Aaron Davis, who was really a mentor for Miles. ends up getting shot by the Kingpin. And again, another mentor role model, another uncle figure that ends up being a really prominent piece and story into Miles as Spider-Man. And so what was going to happen in this film? You have, different types of elements where you even see in the trailers where there's a little bit more kind of either kind of scenes or some type of a focus on Miles's parents, their relationship, trying to highlight that a little bit more, maybe to kind of set us up that there could be a death going on. Obviously, it would be very sad, but again, that's kind of what leads us into that next kind of piece of Miles' story. Now that he's Spider-Man, or he's been Spider-Man for a couple of years, how is he going to deal when he can't really do both sides of it, right? He can't just hide this from his parents and still live the life that he wants to. So would there be a death is really that big question that I have before I watch this movie. And then my final question is, would we see any of the prior Spider characters from Into the Spider-Verse in this film? So we got to see Spider-Ham, we got to see Spider-Noir, we got to see Penny Parker. All of those Spider characters made appearances. And again, they all kind of left their mark in regards to, how they kind of at least helped in some way to shape Miles as Spider-Man. And so I was very curious. Well, now that this is a sequel, and considering that there are 200 characters of different Spider-Mans that are going to be appearing, would they make an appearance? Would they come out and would they have a big role just like they did in the first film? Or would they just kind of be in the background and let other Spider characters have the limelight in this case? And so that was one of my other thoughts is, would that specific character like Penny Parker or Spider-Man Noir or Spider-Ham have another kind of piece to help out Miles in any way in this story? Now I want to delve into my overall thoughts, my pros and cons after watching Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. All right, overall thoughts. I thought this movie was really great. I actually, it's going to be crazy, but I've actually, in the 1 week that the movie has been out, I've actually gone to see it 3 times. The first time was opening night on June 2nd. Me, my girlfriend, and my brother went to go see it in Dolby Cinema, and just like the first one, there was just so many great little jokes sprinkled in that made the movie so enjoyable to watch. And just, it kind of, again, just blew me away at how colorful that everything was, how just, again, they raised the bar when it came to the animation. And so, again, I think that leads me into a perfect segue into my first pro. And this is kind of where, again, guys, I'll delve into some of my pros about Across the Spider-Verse, and then I'll delve into a couple of cons. First pro, I mentioned it right now, is the animation. It is out of this world how cool the animation they were able to pull off in this movie. To me, the animation here is just a lot better than the Into the Spider-Verse. Again, like how I described it a little bit earlier, Into the Spider-Verse is like a comic book that you're kind of just reading through. Everything's kind of got a very similar style, besides certain characters, right? Like Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, and you have Penny Parker. Those styles are the unique parts of Miles Morales' story in Into the Spider-Verse. Here, they are able to actually layer in the different universes of where these Spider-Man characters are coming from. Great example is Spider-Gwen. Gwen Stacy's world, when this film starts, it actually starts with her story. It starts with her side of what has happened since we saw her Into the Spider-Verse. And her world is almost like a kind of watercolor type, where the background is all kind of watercolors. It kind of blends in with the walls and everything that's going on. But what's so cool is that depending on an emotion that Gwen Stacy has, like talking with her father, those colors change. There's times where she's giving her father the cold shoulder, and she's like a very kind of dark blue. And then all of a sudden, when she gives him a hug, it all kind of turns bright orange. And it just kind of, again, reflects the emotion that these characters are going through just in Gwen Stacy's world. And then you jump over to Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara, played by Oscar Isaac. You have his world, which is much more of a futuristic Nueva York. And you have these buildings that go all the way up to the sky. You don't even see the top of these skyscrapers, and some of them travel to the moon. But you see it completely different. The colors and the schemes are all very bright, and it was just so cool how they animated every single world. Every character was so different as well. You had, again, Spider-Man 2099. His suit was just so... again, it just stood out the way that they kind of, contextualized his entire suit, how he was able to kind of go around and kind of walk, run, and attack different types of ways. And it just looked so visually beautiful. And then you have, characters like Spider-Punk, who is almost like they kind of piece together different types of comic strips and paper strips of like rock star posters and concert posters. It was just so different. Every character had like a very unique style. And what was cool is that they kind of blended them all together as the movie went along. So I was blown away. Like it definitely, to me, I can say that this is probably the most unique watching experience that you'll have in 2023, at least so far, with the movies that have come out up until June. It's definitely one of the most beautiful movies that you'll watch, just because of how much colors, how much art, how much different styles are being used. Whereas we're so used to just kind of looking at one, consistent style when we're watching a live action movie. You might obviously see different types of colors and in the cinematography, but here you get overwhelmed by how much animation that they are able to pull off, and it all just looks so damn beautiful. But that is definitely my biggest pro, is the animation that they were able to pull off. So great job to all of the animators and everybody involved in Across the Spider-Verse. One of the coolest movies that you can watch this year, just by the simple fact of every single Spider-Man character having a different type of art style. Is just so awesome. Second piece that I really enjoyed as a pro is the emotional aspect that occurred in the movie for certain characters. To kind of give you a perspective, in the first film, there was really good emotion that was kind of layered in. You had the relationship between Miles and his father. His father trying to get to his son to kind of get him focused and be the best he could be in school. And then you had Miles, who, that typical kid, right? All of us are in that spot where when we get to that puberty point and we're in high school, we don't want to say I love you to our parents that much. We get a little bit embarrassed of talking to them, and you can feel that through Miles in the first movie. Here they raise it up to beyond 10. You have relationship building between Gwen and Miles, how their relationship kind of plays out. Gwen even calls out in a specific scene that, she's been able to travel some of the multiverses and universes, and she's been able to see that, a lot of Gwen Stacy's fall for Spider-Man. And then she ends up following up with, and in a lot of those universes, it doesn't end well for Gwen Stacy. Calling out that in other universes, Gwen Stacy ends up dying because of that relationship with Spider-Man. And then you see that the two, Gwen Stacy and Miles, kind of just again build off of that friendship and kind of blossom into something more, or it seems like it wants to, right? Then you have a relationship again with Miles and his parents. This time his mom, Rio, has much more to do in this film, and she has like a beautiful speech that she's able to tell Miles about taking care of the little boy, about just kind of giving him the heads up that, hey, don't feel scared that, that, or think that everybody's going to love you, right? You might go out into the world and meet new people, and you think that this is the greatest time ever, and then you realize that they don't want you, or they're telling that you don't deserve to be here. And she's just telling them, hey, like, don't forget that your family's always going to be there, no matter what anybody says outside. And it kind of just foreshadows what ends up happening in this movie. How really his mom, Rio, for Miles, kind of predicts that that's really what the Spider-Man society, these characters that he ends up facing off of against all these different Spider-Mans, he was hoping that, this is going to be my way to learn to become a better Spider-Man. And at the end, he realizes that it really wasn't what he made up in his mind of. It wasn't really what he was expecting. And so it's just a lot of different types of emotion. And then you have, again, Miles and Miguel O'Hara. Miguel O'Hara, again, is Spider-Man 2099. He's the one that's really kind of trying to save all these different types of worlds and multiverses, and he comes to odds against Miles because of Miles and his whole kind of trajectory of becoming Spider-Man. And again, I don't want to delve in too much. I do want to give some spoilers, but I really want most of everybody that's listening that if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out, because there's a lot of kind of different details. But all in all, the emotion that's kind of played out in this film is just incredible. And again, it just ratchets up to another level, and it just kind of takes the story, beat by beat. It just never feels like it slows down. It's always kind of taking you to, funny jokes, action, then a very serious kind of like a, emotional type of a discussion. And it kind of proceeds to kind of move all the way through until it finishes up. So definitely a great aspect that they were able to add a lot more emotion, and not just to Miles. I think that's what I love the most, is that it's not just Miles' story in this one. It's definitely more about Gwen as well, highlighting what she's trying to go through. They highlight a little bit of Peter B. Parker and how he's kind of changed since he last spoke to Miles. And then, of course, Miguel O'Hara, what he's going through in regards to trying to save the multiverse. So a lot of great stuff that this story was able to portray. And I ate it all up. Third pro that I have for this film is the music. Metro Boomin developed a great soundtrack. The score for the film was amazing. They gave themes to every, main Spider character. Gwen Stacy has probably my favorite theme of all the Spider-Men. It includes her drumming. Again, she actually plays in a band called the Mary Janes in the story, and she's the drummer. And I love how they incorporate the drums into her theme. You have Miguel O'Hara, who has this kind of creepy, futuristic style type of a sound. And then you have the classic Miles Morales, like the heroic theme. But oh man, everything in regards to the sound, the music that they played when Miles and Gwen would ever swing around Brooklyn, that it was just beautiful. It was perfection in regards to how they kind of combined the visuals and the animation with the music in this film. And I can honestly say I really enjoyed this film's score more than the first film. It was just, again, there's just so many different types of combinations. Anytime Miguel O'Hara would make an appearance or an entrance, again, it just sounded unique, and you knew, okay, this is for Miguel. He's here like that. This is for his character. So it made me appreciate it so much. That the music is always going to be obviously a great factor in a lot of different films. But in this one, man, I hope they win some type of award for not only animation, but hopefully for the music as well, because it played a big part. For my fourth pro, I will say that one of my favorite things about this movie is the twists and turns that occurred. It typically, the twists and turns kind of happen at the beginning and then like the end of the third act. And just spoiler warning again, these are where I will spoil a little bit about the story. So if you haven't seen it, please leave now. Okay, hopefully that's enough time. But in the third act, Miles finds out about the multiverse and different canon events. Canon events are going to be those events that happen to every Spider character. Like I mentioned before, Uncle Ben's death, George Stacy's, or the captain of the New York Police Department, his death in every Spider character. But when Miles is looking through this entire multiverse and learning more about these canon events, he realizes that, and he is basically told that he is an anomaly, meaning that he is actually what is causing there to be a multiversal break in the entire kind of canon events. And the reason for that is because, it was just a great twist that they were able to pull off, in that the spider that bit Miles was actually not supposed to bite him, because that spider is not from his Earth. He is from Earth 1610, and that spider came from Earth 42. And basically, that set off a chain reaction in regards to having the Earth 42, where that spider came from, basically not have any character get bit by the spider, meaning that there is no Spider-Man, meaning that there is no Spider-Man to actually save that Earth. And so it just set off a chain reaction, and it basically just kind of puts you in the spot that Miles really, again, was never intended to become Spider-Man, yet he still is Spider-Man. And then that's basically what is driving Miguel O'Hara really crazy, because he doesn't want Miles involved with the Spider Society. He doesn't want him involved in this multiverse events, because again, he is the anomaly, and he does not want him interfering in other worlds. And again, that was just a great twist. And it was, again, and you can even look back at Into the Spider-Verse, and if you remember that spider that was about to bit Miles, it actually glitches. And obviously, if you've watched these two movies, when something glitches, that's when you know that, okay, this is not from this world. This is not from this dimension or Earth. And so they set it up from the beginning Into the Spider-Verse that they were going to lead down this path. And obviously that leads to a lot of tension between the Spider Society, mostly between Miguel O'Hara and Miles Morales. There was also a couple of other twists and turns in regards to what he ends up finding out after he realizes he is an anomaly. Again, I'm not going to spoil those in those cases because again, I feel like that's just too much of a spoiler to give to folks that have not seen it. So definitely check it out. But again, the twists and the turns in this movie were freaking incredible. Can't say enough about it. It was just so much fun to kind of see how the story told. And I love it when movies are able to pull that off on me. Like, sometimes you can easily predict what's going to happen. In this case, for these twists in this movie, I was not able to even go down that path like, whoa, hold on. I was not even thinking about that. So a great job by the producers, the writers, and the directors of this film. All right, now that I've talked about my pros about the movie, I do have a con in regards to this film. Again, I've loved this movie up to this point. It's been awesome the way that they've kind of portrayed Miles, Gwen, Peter B. Parker, Miguel O'Hara, all these different types of characters, and they just made a great Spider-Man story. For me, my only nitpick is how the movie ended. So again, spoiler warning for anybody that has not seen it. So again, I don't want to ruin to how it ends, but due to the fact that the story will continue in Beyond the Spider-Verse, this film ends with a cliffhanger that basically leads up to the next movie. Just for the record, I have no problem with films ending in cliffhangers. You have movies like Infinity War that ends in a great cliffhanger. You have movies like Empire Strikes Back, Lord of the Rings. You have a lot of movies that we know that the story is not going to end with the second film, the sequel. It's going to end with a third and sometimes a fourth film. Again, no problem with ending on a cliffhanger. However, after the first time I watched it, I felt like it was they did not end on a good spot. It felt very unnecessary to show Gwen at the end gathering and assembling the different Spider-Man characters to try to save Miles. Knowing that you're just showing us a tease of what's going to happen in the third movie, I didn't really want to see that. I would have much preferred that the movie ended way darker, meaning, at some point, you get to realize that Miles is in the wrong universe. He got sent to Earth 42, and he ends up finding out that his other self, which is, Miles Morales in that Earth 42 dimension, is actually not Spider-Man. Instead, he is the Prowler. That would have been a great way to end this film. End it on such a note that you are shocked that his variant is not Spider-Man. His variant that should have been Bit is actually the Prowler, so he turned evil. And that would have just been a great and dark way to just show, like, hey, here's what happens when, you become that anomaly, how you change the course of history, and then boom, fade to black, to be continued, and move on to Beyond the Spider-Verse next year. Instead, they just go through the process of teasing that Gwen is trying to convince other Spider characters to team up with her to save them. Then they show the Spot coming to Miles' universes to kind of, end everything. And it just didn't feel right. I completely understand this is not going to be like a true beginning, middle, and end of a movie. But it just felt incomplete, and it just kind of felt like they were setting you up for like, oh, this is about to happen. They're about to have a showdown, and then no showdown. It kind of just like leaves you with just like that hope, like, oh, here's what's going to happen. And it's like, I didn't need that. Again, and I might sound cynical. I would have much preferred a darker ending. End it with him realizing that he is in the wrong universe. And that way you leave people with like, wait, what? Like, he's in the wrong universe? And then it forces people to kind of rewatch it, look back and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's in the wrong universe. How is he going to get out? Who's going to save him? Who knows that he's in that universe? Just kind of take it from that perspective. Again, it's a personal nitpick. A lot of people that I've seen on other reviews have said that this is, again, they didn't care about that. They love the cliffhanger. So again, not trying to disparage anybody else's opinions. This is just my personal opinion. The movie was still amazing for me. There was so many great shots, so many great colors. The animation was beautiful. Characters that came out. Spider-Punk was awesome as a character. Spider-Man 2099 Miguel O'Hara was an amazing character and a very kind of interesting perspective that he had. Again, to me, the only thing that kind of keeps this from being like a perfect or an awesome film is the ending for me. I did not need them to kind of tease what's coming next. Leave it with like hope. I don't need that. I'm much more with the approach of leave it like not Endgame. Leave it like Infinity War. If you think about Infinity War, that's really the greatest cliffhanger for me, in that you see Thanos from the beginning to end. His goal is to collect the Infinity Stones, and what ends up happening? He collects them, he snaps, and the Avengers lose. The Avengers are our heroes. We're rooting for the Avengers, and the film ends with half of the universe being wiped out. That's beautiful like that. And it's not like, oh man, like I'm left disappointed that they lost. No, because now I'm looking forward to Endgame. How are they going to come back? How are they going to be able to top Thanos and reverse whatever they did? Same idea here. You just leave it off as Miles being lost in another universe. Oh man, okay, I can't wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse, because there's got to be a way that Miles gets back to his home universe. Again, just my own personal thoughts. I still thoroughly enjoyed this movie. As you can tell, I've already gone to see it 3 times. I would highly recommend everybody to go check this movie out in theaters, especially in Dolby or IMAX, just so you can experience all of the colors of the animation that this is being portrayed on the big screen. Such a awesome movie, and I again highly recommend everybody go check it out before it leaves theaters. All right, everybody, that was a lot of pros and a lot of cons in regards to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now I want to jump into the next segment, which is what was my favorite performance in the movie. For me, there was 2 characters that I could lean on as my favorite performances. First one was Spider-Punk. Spider-Punk was just such a surprise. And again, I called it out in the first segment about what character was going to be a surprise. Spider-Punk was hilarious. David Kaluuya, again, was great voice for that character. Showed how like of a punk rock he is, how much of a rebel he is. And it just translated so well into the screen. And what also helped is that his animation was probably the coolest as well. But to me, the standout performance was Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, played by Oscar Isaac. From the moment he appeared at the beginning of the film, he was so freaking interesting to watch. Not only does he have his own cool theme, but the way he designed his character was also pretty unique. Again, what stood out to me was how different he was from the rest of the Spider-Man. Not just the fact that he isn't a Peter Parker or Miles Morales or anybody else, but it wasn't it was that he wasn't as funny or witty as the other characters. And they even called it out. They even said like that, like, Miguel, you're the only one that's not funny. Like, why are you not funny? Because if you really think about it, every Spider-Man character that they highlighted is pretty witty. Everybody's got jokes. Everybody tries to make fun of things when they're facing off against villains. Not Miguel O'Hara. He is straight-faced. He is serious. And he's just always about business. There were scenes where you could see his rage wanting to come out, but he had to hide it at certain points. Again, sometimes he couldn't even do that with Miles. Oscar Isaac killed it with the voice acting. Again, he had to play a strong and serious character, and you believe him every time he's talking about the multiverse. What are the implications that happen if a canon event is disrupted? So many different things and elements that are played out. So after watching the movie a second and a third time, again, I didn't realize that he only came out really at the beginning and the end of the film. But even in the scenes that he comes out, he does not waste a single step with his character. Again, he was the character to focus in on. He's the one that's kind of really trying to and gives off a really philosophical kind of an approach to Miles. He's basically telling them that you can't save everybody. You're going to have to sacrifice 1 or 2 people in order to save multiple worlds. And again, he gives a great side to that philosophical theory. Again, it's like the theory of like, is it destiny or is it free will? Again, in this case, he gives that choice to Miles, in that if he keeps trying to save as many people as he can, he ends up destroying these universes because of the fact that he's disrupting all these canon events. So great job by Oscar Isaacs. He had, to me, the most interesting character, which is Miguel O'Hara, and I cannot wait to see him again in Beyond the Spider-Verse. Okay, now I want to talk about my favorite scene or moment in the movie. Once again, spoiler warning for anybody that has not seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse yet. Okay, hopefully that's enough time. But my favorite scene was the whole sequence in which Miguel O'Hara, in his universe of Nova York, explains to Miles about the web of life and destiny and why Miles is an anomaly himself. How that all unravels and then leads to a crazy chase scene between Miles and all of the Spider-Man characters in the Spider Society is insane. It culminates with Miles going head to head with Miguel and telling him that no matter what, he was not going to follow the rules of the multiverse and just let people die. Instead, he was going to do his own way and feel like, hey, I'm Spider-Man and I feel like I can do whatever it can. If I have a chance to save somebody, I will. It was a great conversation. And again, it throws into that point of the philosophy of it, right? The theory of, well, is it destiny that we have to let these people die because it's part of your story? Or can you make up your own story by disrupting these events? And what ends up happening when you disrupt these events? Everybody in the movie kept saying that if we disrupt too many of these canon events, we end up losing universes. They end up disappearing and basically falling into these different types of depths of, again, just disappear. So great conversation between Miguel O'Hara and Miles Morales as they both battled it out in regards to determining, what is the right choice, right? What should Spider-Man do? And it ends up becoming a one-on-one battle on a specific train that's kind of heading to the moon. It was, again, great visuals and a great face-to-face. And it probably has my favorite line in the movie in which Miles says, he's like, everybody keeps telling me how my life's supposed to go. Nah, I'm going to do my own thing. And that was that line was just like, gives me goosebumps because, again, it just shows how Miles, again, his whole goal was to really be a part of the Spider Society at the beginning. He wanted to travel to this, these different dimensions and learn from these Spider-Men to become a better Spider-Man himself. And then he realizes that he's not even wanted in the Spider Society. He's being told that he's not supposed to be Spider-Man. He's being told that he's an anomaly and he's causing all these ripples in the multiverse. So imagine how much that hurts him inside. And so again, when he delivered that line, it was just so beautiful, saying that like, hey, no matter what you tell me, I'm still going to do what I feel is right. So really great stuff. And again, that's what makes this movie just so unique in its own as well. All right, everybody. Now we are in the last segment of the Timeless Movie Podcast. And that is where we're going to answer the tough question of, does this movie have the potential to be timeless? At the moment, Across the Spider-Verse, for me, has the potential to be a timeless movie that you can rewatch over and over again. However, I'm not guaranteeing that, like, yes, this is a timeless movie, 100%. No, I'm definitely on the fence. Only due to the fact that the movie, again, was great, but there's not like a true ending per se, right? It's an incomplete story because this is a part one to, a 3-part story. And so we're still waiting on Beyond the Spider-Verse. That's going to be the final film of this trilogy. And so I feel like once I do watch Beyond the Spider-Verse, that will help me determine, like, yes, this is one that you can actually watch on your own, or really rewatch over and over and over again on your own. Again, when I got out of the theater the first time, I kind of had a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth because, again, I knew that the entire story wasn't going to end, but I just wanted there to be like a true beginning, middle, and end. And I didn't feel like there was that. It kind of just felt like it was leading up to and getting ready for like a huge climax and a huge payoff. And then it kind of just ends and goes to black. And so I kind of felt like, no, like that means I have to wait for the next film. But again, that's just my personal opinion. The film balances great emotion. It balances great action, humor. And again, it tells a story that just keeps you engaged the entire time. I'm going to say it again. I've already seen it 3 times. Wouldn't be surprised if I watched it again, just because of the fact that it's just such an enjoyable experience. And every time you watch it, you catch something different from the animation that they were able to portray. So it's just such a good stuff. Also, I guess just another reminder, this film kind of reminds me of the first time I watched Dune. When I watched Dune, I felt the same way at the end. I was like, why would you cut it off here? Like, this doesn't even feel like a complete movie. But after I kept watching and watching Dune, I kept getting more and more hyped about the story, and it kept getting better and better over time. And so I feel like I'm getting a similar feeling for this one. After the first time, I was a little kind of like, yes, the movie was so cool, but why did it have to end that way? Like, why didn't you end it a little bit more dark? And then the second time and third time, it became easier and easier to watch because again, I already knew what the ending was going to be like. I kind of expected it, and so I was already okay with it as well. So I know that the more times I watch this, it will be a much more enjoyable experience. But again, it just, what a great movie. Don't know if it's my top movie of the year. Again, I still really have John Wick and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as my top 2 movies. This one's definitely going to be notched there for number 3. Such an enjoyable experience. Guys, if you haven't had a chance and you've made it all the way through the end of this, please make sure to go out and watch Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It is an awesome experience, and I think you guys would enjoy it, especially if you're a Spider-Man fan. Definitely a great time to watch because you have so many different characters that pop up, but it's also a great story overall. All right, everybody, those are my thoughts about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. I definitely want to get your thoughts and let me know. Like, are you in agreement with what I thought about the ending? Did you not get bothered by the cliffhanger? Is this the best Spider-Man movie you've ever seen? Let me know. I definitely want to interact with you guys and hear what your thoughts are. Okay, everybody, my name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 42 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Thank you so much for staying and listening, and make sure to check me out next episode where we talk about a new movie that we're going to see in theaters and determine if it is timeless. All right, guys, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your week.